Toddy, I'm going to swing it to you first. Can the Falcons be a contender in the NFC?
This is a factor cap?
No, just a regular topic.
I think so. They added a lot on the offensive side. They got Rondale Moore for Desmond Ridder. That was pretty crazy to me. So kind of like in the span of a couple of weeks, they got Kirk Cousins. They got they have Rondale Moore. So I'm just going off the entirety of their offense. You got Kyle Pitts, Rondale Moore. You have Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and now you have a guy who a very consistent can throw you 4,000 to 5,000 yards a season. This is a guy who's been very consistent throughout the years. Does only have one playoff win, so that's kind of where it gets tricky. But I feel like Kirk Cousins has been a regular season warrior for how long it's ever been, and Atlanta is starving for something like that because they need to get back to some sort of winning, NFC South titles, because we've all in the past have believed that the NFC South has been, in the past couple of years, been up for grabs ever since Tom Brady has kind of left. And even when that last year that Brady was in, that was kind of a debacle, and they kind of just lucked into the NFC South title. For the most part, that division has been, kind of up in arms. But the Saints have kind of dabbled in winning that division, and then it kind of transferred to Tampa Bay. But I think that they're going to win. They're going to go to I think they'll win the division this year. So you guys can kind of go and place your bets now. Place your bets now for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't even know what the odds are currently right now. They're probably, I think after they, so I saw after they signed Kirk Cousins, the odds went up for them. They were plus 5,000 before to win the Super Bowl, and then when Kirk Cousins signed, they were plus 3,000. So obviously Vegas thinks that they got better. I just think with the weapons that Kirk Cousins has been surrounded with, it's kind of impossible for him to not win the division if healthy. I'm just looking at what Bryce Young has looked like. He looked anemic last year. Obviously, he's getting, an upgrade as a coach in Dave Canales. Who do you get as a receiver? I forgot who. Deontay Johnson. That's what we got. Is Deontay Johnson number one? Is that going to help him? I'm not sure. The Panthers need help everywhere. It's not just receiver or the offense. They need a running back. They need an O-line. They need a new edge rusher after they traded Brian Burns. They need a little bit of everything. The Saints, God knows what I have went through with the Saints. Just gambling on them constantly throughout the year, saying that they were going to go to the NFC Championship was insane. I feel like what I thought the Saints would have been last year is what the Falcons are going to be this year. I don't know if they'll get to the NFC Championship game, but they can definitely win a playoff game, because if you win your division, you get a home playoff game. So that's going to be an automatic bid for them. And I feel like with how they did in free agency, they're probably one of the better teams I thought in free agency, other than the Philadelphia Eagles, to go out and kind of, spend some money. They kind of went out.
Pay to play.
And as Kevin has said to me numerous times off air, you got to pay to play. I thought the Falcons were one of the better teams that kind of transformed their teams. They can, the Falcons were like 6-7. They won 6 games last year. I think adding Kirk Cousins can get you at least 2 to 3 more wins. And the Falcons were in a lot of close games last year, and I feel like them having a lack of stability at quarterback, with them playing a turnover machine in Desmond Ridder, and another guy who likes to throw picks in Taylor Heineke. It adds some stability. I can't remember. Was the last time? Matt Ryan was the last time they had like a 4,000. I was going to say Michael Vick. The last time they had a 4,000-yard passer. But Matt Ryan, once upon a time, won an MVP. So that was when Kyle Shanahan was definitely calling plays for him. So that did help. So I'm not saying Kirk Cousins can win MVP, but it wouldn't hurt to sprinkle some money on it, because he might put up crazy numbers in this offense that he's going to have next year. So, yes, I'll say that in answering the question, the Falcons will be a contender in the NFC. They'll be one of those teams that didn't make the playoffs last year and kind of flip, because we see a bunch of those because there's so much turnover with free agency. They'll be one of those teams that'll make the playoffs that didn't in the previous year.
All right, Gary, I'm going to swing it to you next. Can the Falcons be a contender in the NFC?
NFC South, that's what they're contending for. That's about the only thing they're going to be contending for in the NFC, my guys. You know, they did a lot of Von did a great job going through all the moves and acquisitions they had. But if Kirk Cousins is your biggest quote-unquote signee that you're really proud about, shouldn't be too bad. A man that's off his ACL, just tore his ACL.
Achilles,
excuse me. Achilles, you know, wish the man is the best health and hope he gets better and hope, banged a lot of teams over the head over to get where he's gotten to get the, banking on himself and keep doing what he's doing. You know, everyone mentioned shout out to his agent for, helping him out and getting through this. So, and I think he mentioned that, he should, I co-signed what he said. He said, why would I be apologizing for making the money I made in the league to provide for my family, as he should not apologize. So nothing against him and their team. But and like I mentioned, the NFC South, because of how wide open it could be and how wide open it's really been. But if we really go talking about contenders, I'm thinking your top three knocking on the door really to the Super Bowl, and those spots are already filled up, guys. We already know San Francisco is still knocking on that door, and whatever they did, they got enough firepower as Von Smiles, even though his team kind of got stripped down this offseason, but still got some main components. We got Detroit that obviously shocked the world last year, and they should still be taking a step forward because they still got a lot of great young guys in their team and moving forward, the nucleus. They also got Green Bay, who proved themselves to be a team that could be scary, knocking out the Cowboys, I think, last year and getting the slap on their face. So they're still a team, and we have a Cavs team that's still with the bounce back. We added Barkley and still need a couple things, but still finished overall 11-6 last year, even though it didn't end so great. They still should be knocking on the door with how much talent that team had. I just named basically 4 teams that can easily be better, and I didn't even mention Seattle, which can still was 9-8. They made a couple of tweakages, and maybe even the Rams. Even though they had a Hall of Famer, retire, them making the playoffs and almost beating that Detroit Lions team. Very close game, if we recall. So they can always still make noise with Stafford, McVay, and the 2 guys I mentioned earlier who are great wide receivers in themselves with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. So there's still about 4 teams that still have to jump. And I don't think Kirk Cousins and them are going to be jumping him. So basically he went from a Minnesota Vikings about here, and now he's going to help the Atlanta Falcons be here. Same spot, ain't no really change. Beat about 4. Basically, even though Minnesota, if you really look at it, they got a lot of good young guys too. So maybe they should have kept him there, or he should have went there because they still were building. But I guess he wanted a fresh start in a new place. So, playing in a dome in Atlanta, hopefully they get that city rocking and rolling. Because when they are rocking and rolling, it is a cool place to see and see them turn up for their team. So I hope they get going. But in terms of contending for the Super Bowl and contending to the NFC Championship game, I don't really see it, guys. You're going to have to make me a believer.
And you know what, Gary? I'm happy you came in here on that kind of energy because Toddy was screaming his praises and mentioned all these acquisitions and mentioned all this talent. Anyone better than Justin Jefferson? I know Bijan's great. Are we ready to say he was better than prime Dalvin Cook? TJ Hawkinson? As Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson? Kirk's had a lot of talent, 4,000-yard seasons, 4,000-yard season after this, 4,000-yard season after this. How many playoff wins does he have? 1. So, yes, you want to say Kirk can do this, Kirk can do this. We've seen it. We've seen it with our own 2 eyes, but we've also seen Kirk lose to Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, ladies and gentlemen. So as much as we, like Gary said, the Vikings, all the talent, all-pro wide receiver, best receiver of the game. He has all these weapons. He had prime Dalvin Cook and couldn't do nothing. So I don't know why going to a weaker conference is going to make him a contender because that division with the Vikings was coming up. You got Jordan Love coming up, Caleb Williams. The Bears were coming. The Packers were here. The Lions were here. It was a lot of competition over there. So he went to a division where he'll always make the playoffs. But what does that mean when they host a game like they did last year or 2 years ago and the Giants come to town and the new wild card comes to town and beats them? Like Kirk Cousins, we're in the same cycle. Like he has the arm talent. He can do it all. No one's worried that he's going to take a step back after the Achilles. but we've seen Kirk Cousins. How many times do we have to see it? He's about 1-4, 1-5 in the playoffs, fellas. We've seen it a lot. He can't get that team over the hump. So I'm going to say, I don't know if there'll be a contender. Will they win their division? Of course, like Toddy said, the Panthers have holes, the Bucks, I don't know about Baker Mayfield.
Can they win a playoff game?
You said what?
Can they win a playoff game?
I don't know, bro. Because
they
Garry
play the Cowboys.
Like I would say, like the Cowboys, they're gonna play like the Rams. They could play the Saints. They could play.
The Bucks won a playoff game last year.
Hey man, so we're gonna have to see, but I'm not willing to put all my money in the pot for Kirk Cousins. So
I think they can win a playoff game.
I mean, it would have to be hella dependent on the matchup because let's say the Lions win the division, the Packers got to go there. You know what I mean? You're not gonna take the Falcons over the Packers, are you?
We don't think Kirk, with the team that he has now, can do what Baker did last year?
So who's Mike Evans? Drake London?
You got Drake, you got Kyle. They got some dudes over there.
Yeah, but that's not 1,000
Bijan?
he touched the season, every season.
That's not a coach that's been in the championship proven too.
Yeah, that's not with a good defense.
Got a good coach too.
It's a lot going on. So
I think they can win a playoff game. That's what I think they can do. So technically,
they could be set up as Detroit of last year. I'm not going to lie, they could be set up like that coming up this year. But a lot of things have to go right.
I feel like the two teams that they're kind of looked at as comparable to is there's the Detroit and then there's the Bucks. I feel like they're closer to the Bucks than they are at Detroit, who went to the NFC Championship last year. There's a big difference between that divisional round and the NFC Championship game. I think that they can get to the divisional round and kind of it just be all right. Let's see where that can be there. It's fair game from there, but I think they could win a playoff game. Like I think they can kind of duplicate what the Bucks did last year, and that's win a playoff game at home. They beat the Eagles last year. The Bucks beat the Eagles last year in the playoffs at home. Do the Falcons get matched up with the? I guess it would depend on the matchup, but I do still believe that they could win a playoff game.